So lately, I've had a real urge to better my craft. I love what I make at the moment, but I want to push myself further. I feel like I can attribute all the moments where I've leveled up or seen progression to a moment of experimentation. A moment where I've tried something that I'm uncertain of what the results may be. So this is what this series is. Current working title is A Journey to Get Good. Episode 1, 40k Terrain 2.0. Starting off, I'm sort of revisiting my how to build 40k terrain tutorial. This time, I want to make something with a little bit more character, so I'm building upwards towards the sky. So, I want to seal these foam pieces in a way that they're going to be tough, but also retain some texture. I went with an idea I'd been thinking about for a while, which is using a foam-safe construction adhesive and watering it way down, so it sort of becomes a consistency that I can brush on. This worked a real treat, but because it's so cold here at the moment, it took an entire day to dry, which really messed with my flow. Typically, I just put everything down and wait, and I think I do that sometimes as a way to procrastinate, so today it's important for me just to keep building. So instead, I'm making a sci-fi base camp, which was an idea that stemmed from a Patreon suggestion, which I thought was really cool. I have these kitbashed models I made, and they're meant to be like a ragtag team of bounty hunters. I figured they could be on this planet to hunt for bounty or treasure, but because these guys are a bit cheap and bootleg, I like the idea of them being dropped off on this planet in some sort of shipping container or caravan. So that's the direction I started building. Once the first coat of construction adhesive was dry, I used more adhesive to try to make the formation a little bit more natural by filling gaps and breaking up the uniformity. I imagine some sort of modeling compound would be perfect for this sort of thing. I don't have any yet, but I've ordered some for next episode's project, so I'm really excited to give it a go. Back to the caravan, I used a rotary tool to shape it and clean it up as best I could. This whole rotary tool thing is a pretty new thing to me, but it gave me a lot of confidence in scratch building, knowing I can fix my mistakes if I mess up, and all it takes is a little bit of bicarb soda, some super glue, and a quick sand to get everything back on track. Then I started the detail process by adding bars and bits to make it a little bit more sci-fi. I'm going for that caravan, campervan, shipping container aesthetic with these bars. It's both familiar and a bit sci-fi, and I think that's my favorite combination. Okay, so painting these land formations, I base coated it with spray paint. I accidentally bought gloss, but who cares? The main thing is that the protective, tough adhesive layer that I applied earlier stopped the foam from melting from my lazy, too close spray painting, and the surface feels super tough. So, big win. And I'll be using that in the future. Add some black paint, and you could call it Miscast Magic Coat. Don't sue me, Jeremy, this is my thing now. I hit the rock formations with an airbrush, which is all new territory for me, but my friend Riley gifted me with his old airbrush, and now I have no excuse but to learn. I really fumbled my way through this experimenting thing, trying out lots of different paint consistencies and brush control, and overall there's some really dodgy bits, but like, who's gonna care? I'm not gonna care, and you shouldn't care either. I picked up some bits I had my dad 3D print on his Ender 3. They're all from my 3D printable sci-fi Greeblies kit from miscast.co if you want them. They really made this sci-fi shipping container look so much cooler and elevate it from a big box to a cool big box. I also made this other piece of terrain because I want to play with some water effects as suggested by another patron of mine. By the way, all these Patreon suggestions has been a great way of getting me out of my comfort zone and forced me to problem solve, so please keep them coming. Then it's base coat time. Rattle can black and gunmetal silver, and I added in some base colors, which I think at this point I'm only really painting things just to make them look dirty. I love white for how awesome it looks dirty, and I really like green because of the military, seriously business look, and it looks really good dirty. I then wanted to try using wood stain on these rock formations, not really for any good reason, just to see what happens really, and it turned out okay. And then I hit the base camp scene with some brown oil paints, which made everything as awesome as I knew it would. I feel like with oil paints, it can be a bit easier to hide the print lines, maybe because there's a bit of body to the paint or because it's so easy to manipulate. I don't know, but oil paints are my go-to with FDM prints. I hit the rock formations with some matte varnish to tone down the glossiness, and I added some dust pigments. To apply dust pigments, which by the way, the dust pigments I use are either some sort of tile grout or crushed oil pastel or oxide pigment. It's one of those things. I lay down some matte varnish while it's still wet, and I sprinkle on the pigment. That makes it stick while keeping it nice and matte and dusty, which is something I really struggled with, but yeah, that's the solution. And then I also added some to the caravan and the cargo to tie everything together, make it look like it's all in the same scene. Then I used a cheap 2-part epoxy with a bit of green paint to make it look like alien sludge puddles or something like that. I also added some worms because the bounty hunters, I'm sure, will have to live off the land at some point, and them having to catch and eat giant worms would probably be really funny. I don't know. It's dumb, but you know, narrative it makes making things fun. And that's it. Episode 1 down. I learned a bunch. Experimenting's the best. If you have some ideas and you want to give them to me, Patreon is the place to go. If you want to check out cool things I make, miscast.co is cool. And yeah, dumb photos of me at miscastterrain on Instagram is the place to find them. And hopefully nowhere else. So, alright, bye.